Infinitive English. Together, we're gonna make your English better.
I think that's enough for today. I want you to get the fuck out of our house.
You know, the whole acting hard thing doesn't really suit you, Rick.
Okay, we're done.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Infinitive English channel. This is your host. My name is Rahman, and I'd like to welcome y'all back to another episode of Phonetical Breakdown. In this episode, we are going to take on some lines from the movie White Boy Rick. And again, guys, disclaimer, Peggy 18. 18 plus. We're going to take down some useful slang, some bad words again. Let's get to it. Phonetical Breakdown.
I think that's enough for today. I want you to get the fuck out of our house. I think that's enough for today. I want you to get the fuck out of our house.
White Boy Rick. That's enough for today. Why don't you two get the fuck out of our house?
I think that's enough for today. I want you to get the fuck out of our house.
Why don't you two get the fuck out of the house? Now, guys, without further ado, let's do the breaking. So the first part is quite easy, and especially if you have been, trekking the stuff that I am dropping. So, guys, but again, I will never get tired of reminding you guys that the key to a lazy American English is linking, guys. You have got to keep everything together so it will sound as if it was one weird ass word. Okay, so I think that's enough for the day. He said, listen.
I think that's enough for today.
Did he say, I think that is enough for the day? Nope, he didn't. But he said, listen again.
I think that's enough for today.
I think, keep in mind, right, to get rid of this corny ass Russian. I think that, oh my goodness. I think that enough for the day. But I mean, come on, guys, you will be understood, no doubt in that. But it just slicing the ears of native speakers, trust me, right? Not only native speakers, some teachers also. Yeah, my ears are getting sliced by that thing. But it's super easy to correct it. Just stick your tongue out, that's it. I think that's enough for the day. But listen how he said this part. For the day. For the day.
For day.
Right? Okay. Now, I think that's enough. Now, guys, this word is pronounced as E. Enough. So it's not enough or enough. No, it's enough. Okay. I think that's enough for the day, obviously. So there's no more explanation required. Let's get moving to the juicy part. All right. So why don't you two get the fuck out of our house?
I want you to get the fuck out of our house.
Why don't you two get the fuck out of our house? Okay, so the same technique applies to everything, right? We gotta stick everything together. So why don't you? Now, why don't you? Again, we connected everything. So we have here the diphthong Y, I, right? That's I here. And here we have a diphthong O. What's in between them? D, that gives us the flip sound. Okay, so it sounds like why don't, okay? Now the T goes in front of the Y sound, gives us the ch, why don't you? So it could have been why don't you, but in this case, he clearly said, why don't you?
I want you to get the fuck out of our house.
Why don't you two? Now, get the fuck out of our house. Ooh, get the fuck out of our house. Get the fuck out of here, okay? All right, so everything is connected. Get the fuck out of. So let's do the phonetical breakdown first, and then, I'm going to run the explanation on how can you use it, when, and why you shouldn't do it in the first place, if you want to be polite, of course. All right, so now we connected, get the fuck out of our house. Did he say, get the fuck out of our house? No, he said, get the fuck out of our house. Again, listen.
Get the fuck out of our house. Get the fuck out of our house.
Get the fuck out of our house. Now, outer, this is what are we breaking here, right? Outer. And it may sound like, oh, the, out of. You guys remember that the of in the American English is or of, depending on its position, right? And again, why it's out of? Because it's a flap sound, right? And because we got the neutral cup sound over here, ow, ow. And here we have a diphthong, ow. And again, the T is in between. So that's why outer house, out of a house. But how did he use this one right here? And why did he do it? Just because. It happens automatically. It's supernatural. Again, supernatural, not extraterrestrial, but it's really natural for native speakers to drop some sounds, transform them into something else, and thus there are no certain regulations, whether it's or of. Well, yeah, there might be some semi-formal rules to it, depending on what kind of a sound goes after it. But again, it all comes down to a natural way of pronouncing things, all right, without even thinking about it. Do you think he was like, okay, how should I put it? Should I say outer or out of, right? It just like it happened naturally. He said out of our house.
Out of our house. Out of our house.
Out of our house, because it's quite difficult to connect out of our house, out of our house, out of our house. But if you put the here, you're going to get it right. Out of our house. Listen to it again.
Out of our house.
Get the fuck out of our house. Out of our house. Out of, right? Out of our house.
Out of our house.
Our house. Okay, guys, you know what time it is? Backward sentence exercise time. All right, so you remember the backward sentence exercise is about moving backwards, okay? From the very ending to the very beginning. But we ain't going to be touching this. I think that's enough for today, all right? So we're just going to, run the backward sentence with this phrase, all right? So, guys, let's get to it. Out of, again, out of our house, out of our house. Get the fuck out of our house. Get the fuck out of our house. Why don't you? Why don't you? Why don't you two? Why don't you two? Why don't you two get the fuck out of our house? Why don't you two get the fuck out of our house? Well, guys, as for the explanation about this phrase over here, get the fuck out of. Okay, get the fuck out of. Well, it's super easy. Get out of there. But you're emphasizing this with the F word right here. But guys, again, if you do not want to sound impolite or rude, because it's super rude to use this, it's super rude. Like amongst your friends, it's okay. Kicking shit, joking, kidding around with your buddies, that's all right. But do not use it. Again, guys, do not use it in some business-related situations or in school, okay? Just mark my word. It ain't gonna do you no good, okay? So get the fuck out of our house, okay? Now, guys, get the fuck out of here. See you next time. Just kidding, guys. I think that's enough for the day, all right? I hope you guys learned something new. I hope you enjoyed this, and see you next time. Don't forget to drop a like, hit the subscribe button for more positive content going on forward, because your likes, your views, and your comments are motivating the living hell out of me. So drop that comment, subscribe to my channel, stay positive out there, and remember, together, we're gonna make your English better.